Welcome to a very special episode of Dates and Mates, the show that makes modern love simple for you. I'm certified dating coach Damona Hoffman, host of the TV series #Black Love and A Question of Love, and I'm here to make modern love simple for you. Today is a very special bonus episode. With the holidays upon us, many of you have been writing to me to say just how stressed you are about relationships and communication and intimacy during this time. So I brought in the big guns, y'all. I brought in the big guns today to talk about emotional intimacy, especially for men. I had to bring in one of the foremost male psychologists, sexologists in this field, Dr. Chris Donaghue. He's a psychotherapist, a sex therapist. He's the host of the Loveline Radio show, Amber Rose Show with Dr. Chris. He's a doctor of clinical sexology and human sexuality. He's a licensed clinical therapist, a certified sex therapist, a certified sexologist, and he's the author of the forthcoming book, Rebel Love, Break the Rules, Destroy Toxic Habits, and Have the Best Sex of Your Life. Please give big smooches to my guest, Dr. Chris Donaghue.
Hi, Damona. How are you?
I'm great. Dr. Chris, good to talk with you. Our listeners are pretty stressed out right now. The holidays are coming, and communication is a big challenge for everybody right now, and tensions are high. So talk to us about how we can improve communication over the holidays with our partners.
Yeah, as you just said, stress is high, tension's high, and so the best way to start focusing on better communication is going to be focusing on self-care. Self-care is very grounding, and it's very soothing. But it's a very new term for a lot of people. So the bigger question then becomes, how do we practice better self-care?
Right. So give us a couple of tips then on self-care.
Yeah, so self-care is not always necessarily just about the physical. We have to know that it's also about the emotional, but that working on some of the physical ties to the emotional. So what I tell people is focus on things that are very soothing and nourishing. And so that's going to mean things like taking baths, focusing on our grooming, things that make us feel better, more confident. But don't leave out sexual health and sexual wellness. That's an important part of physical and emotional self-care.
How are we going to have the time for that when grandma's in the other room and the kids are knocking at the door? How do we carve out the time for emotional and sexual intimacy right now during the holidays?
That's right. It's a big question. I guess I try to motivate people by reminding them the importance of it, because what it's going to do is it's going to decrease depression and anxiety, and that's going to also enhance pleasure, happiness, but also self-esteem and improve relational functioning. So it's about carving out the time and remembering that sexuality isn't always about partnered sex. It's also about your own personal, private sexual health and wellness. And so I talk about people purchasing products. It's a really great way to focus and prioritize that. And so I recommend things like Tenga, their cup series, their egg series. It's just a sign that I'm important, and so is my partner.
Those are all great tips, Dr. Chris. And I am a feminist dating coach. I believe in women taking control of their romantic destiny. I know you talk about being a feminist, and Amber Rose is certainly a feminist. But many people look at the rise in female power as an emasculation of men.
Yeah, I try to remind people that feminism isn't anti-male. It's not about necessarily centering one gender over the other. It's about giving females more empowerment and focusing, sexually speaking, on female sexual pleasure, but that it's positive for all of us. It actually allows men to also move out of standard problematic masculine norms of thinking they always have to be aggressive and assertive, and reminding guys that for them it's about their ability to feel more and that it serves all of us.
Right, exactly. And I know Wedding Wire says that Christmas Day is the #1 engagement day for couples. So there's a lot of stress around this time. And I remember for me, my husband didn't want to propose until he really felt secure as a man and as a provider. So what do you say to those who feel like their relationship isn't moving to the next level then for their couple, their partner not feeling like he's really got his act together?
I tell people that, the goal of relationality is companionship, it's intimacy building. And so I tell people that you really want to focus on commitment, communication, and loyalty. And those factors don't necessarily have to require engagement or marriage. I work with far too many couples that have everything they want, but they somehow deprioritize it or think it's lacking because they're not engaged or married. Take your time. Those things don't necessarily promise anything. We can have so much love, care, and commitment and not be engaged and married. And so focus on just getting the core elements that you want. And if you have them, be thankful you have them.
Yes, but it's so stressful for the ladies, Dr. Chris.
I know.
I see it all the time in my office.
So as we are improving our emotional communication, many of our listeners, they're just at the beginning phases of dating, and they're going into these dates not really knowing how much they can reveal and what is safe to share with a partner. Can you talk about how to encourage healthy communication in the beginning of the relationship? And what's that line between, like, do I share all my stuff or do I just share enough for that person to know that they want to go on another date with me?
I love this question. You know, too many of us go on a date thinking that the job we have is to get that person and to make them happy. And so we often move away from authenticity. And I remind people that a date is about being known, not being liked. And so it can be successful to leave a date realizing we don't have compatibility or chemistry. You want to figure that out. And the only way to do that is by being fully yourself. Now, having said that, I also think that we have to let people earn our trust and they work our way into us sharing deeper parts of ourselves. So on a first date, don't anxiously divulge everything, especially things that might be harder to hear or triggering. So show up authentically, but also you're allowed to have boundaries and privacy and let people earn some of our deeper parts.
Yes, I always say that. They've got to earn that information about you. You can't give it all away on the first date.
No.
So you have this book coming out, Rebel Love, Break the Rules, Destroy Toxic Habits, and Have the Best Sex of Your Life.
Big goals.
Big goals, yes. We talked about having the best sex of your life. We talked about destroying some toxic habits and being present and taking self-care. Breaking the rules. We talked a little bit about dating, but what are some of the rules that you think need to be broken in dating and relationships today?
Yeah, as we were talking about earlier, just being rooted in feminism, I try to move people out of the idea that based on our gender, that there are certain expectations or roles that we need to play relationally or sexually. And so it's all about kind of pushing that aside and really letting the millennials teach us a few things. You know, a study done by Tenga, the 2018 Self-Pleasure Report, showed us that 47% of millennials don't like the standard expectations that come with gender. And so I really think sexual and relational health is about sitting outside of gender norms and gender roles, and especially centering female sexual pleasure and empowerment as well.
So important. And a lot of my listeners, what they even want to get to that point where they can be empowered. But we actually have a question that came in from one of our listeners who says, this guy at work ghosted me. We went on one date that wasn't the best, but wasn't the worst. And then he ghosted. And she says it would be one thing if I never had to see him again, but we work together. Obviously, I have to be the adult in this situation, but how do I be the adult here? So many of my listeners every week write in about ghosting and about people just treating them as disposable. What would you say to this listener and to everyone that is not having their dates show up for them?
Yeah, unfortunately, I would speak to not the person that got ghosted, but the people that are ghosting. I remind them that even if it's just one date or if it's a few dates, there has to be a level of responsibility for whatever it is you created with that person. The most loving thing you can do is to let them down and maybe disappoint them by honestly texting them something like, I'm really sorry, my thoughts changed, or I didn't think the chemistry was there. Let people know. Tell people something. It feels really horrible to not know why someone disappeared. And so we have to have more responsibility for how we impact people.
That is great advice to end this on. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris, for being here. I cannot wait for my listeners to get their hands on your new book, Rebel Love, Break the Rules, Destroy Toxic Habits, and Have the Best Sex of Your Life.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on this special episode of Dates and Mates with Damona Hoffman. Don't forget to get a copy of his upcoming book, Rebel Love, Break the Rules, Destroy Toxic Habits, and Have the Best Sex of Your Life. And listen for him on the Loveline Radio show, Amber Rose Show with Dr. Chris. I'm Damona Hoffman. You can find me on all of the socials at Damona Hoffman. And it's the holiday season, so why not give something to yourself this year? Go ahead and claim my free gifts for you at datesandmates.com. Again, that's datesandmates.com. My friends, this is the last show of the year, so I hope you have very happy holidays, an amazing new year, and we will see you again in 2019. But until then, I wish you happy dating.